It's too far away.
How are you all doing tonight? My name is Bigbobbedboi, and welcome. Shadowlands has been out a week. I've played it a lot, and I want to talk about how it feels after 1 week. Why video after 1 week? Well, if I don't release a video every week, YouTube will crush me. Now, it's only been 1 week, so I gotta preface before people lose their shit. Things will change. I haven't done everything Shadowlands has to offer. Tons of stuff isn't even available yet, so keep that in mind. Alright, I'm going to break it down into different categories since there's a lot going on in Slans. First, let's talk about the actual launch experience real quick. It was actually fucking smooth. I logged on like 6 hours early because I knew there would be queues on Tichondrius, so I didn't have to deal with that. But I didn't get disconnected once and only had a few bouts of lag. I don't even think I had any broken quests. At worst, I had a few quests where NPCs didn't spit out their text like they were supposed to. Honestly, probably the smoothest launch experience I've ever had. Good job, Liz. Moving on to the leveling experience, I leveled my hunter first on launch day. I streamed the whole thing, took like 12 hours, then leveled my warrior after that. They really didn't reinvent the wheel here. It's the same kind of gameplay we've seen since BC and Wrath, with the exception of rares and treasures, which don't add a whole lot. You get a quest to kill a bunch of mobs, kill mobs that drop something, kill a mob with a name and slightly higher HP, with an occasional vehicle quest. Pretty flat ass standard shit, but it's a pretty good version of that. I'd say it's nearly as good as it's ever been. If you've enjoyed the gameplay WoW has had since BC and Wrath, you'll like this. I definitely had more fun than I did in Legion or BFA leveling. The start of the leveling is probably the worst part of it. It has an opening scenario that kind of reminds me of the one in WoD. It's not great, and you can't skip it, even on later characters, which is fucked. It really felt like a slog, and there's a lot of RP moments, which normally I don't mind, but they were a bit excessive. It also takes place in one of the worst zones, where you can't mount. Once it's finally over, you're off into Shadowlands proper. The first new zone you go to, Bastion, is in my opinion the worst of the four. When I played it on the alpha, it was obviously really unfinished, but it was a pretty weak zone. It's considerably better than that on live, but still pretty lackluster. It's just bland. It's just fucking bland. It has a very pleasing aesthetic at first, but then really doesn't have much variance to that. Thankfully, it gets better from there. You move on to Maldraxxus, which is, for story reasons, pretty Scourge-like. I think it looks cool. The first few quests into Maldraxxus sucked, and it was one of the only times people were complaining about the quests in general. But after that, it was a really enjoyable questing experience. Some fun quests, and a zone that doesn't annoy the piss out of me. Ardenweald didn't have anything that particularly stood out, but didn't have anything that bad either. It was just a pretty smooth and enjoyable experience. Revendreth was my favorite zone on the alpha, and it's still my favorite zone on retail. There's a lot of variance in that zone. There's different cast cities, swamps, a craggy sun-soaked area, and another area that has a sort of edge of the world feel. Really, really cool stuff. A lot of the little stories about the characters in the zone were also pretty interesting. More interesting than the main story, honestly. It was a little annoying to traverse, and probably has the worst mob density though. It is weird we only got 4 zones. They do feel big, but Shadowlands could have used more zones. It's an interesting place that could have given us a lot of really varied zones. BC, Wrath, even Legion gave us more zones that had some diversity to them. You can definitely tell they were stretched thin here or had to rush it, because not only did we only get 4 zones, there's no new class, no new races. It's kind of fucking weird. The big change this time around though is there's like an actual main story you have to do. These quests are marked with a different exclamation point and they take you through the zones in order. Thing is, really isn't that big of a change. These quests weren't anything different or special, they just have more relevance to the main story they're trying to tell in Shadowlands. I guess? I really don't know what the point was here. It seems like they were trying to do something like FFXIV's main story quest, but it really didn't land. This is one area where FFXIV is light years ahead of WoW, and they really could have done a better job at this. Now, the good thing is, it didn't really take anything away from the game. It was just regular questing. And there's actually another way to level after you've already completed the story quest once. Now, this is actually some dope shit. It's called Threads of Fate. You still have to do that fucking intro scenario for some arbitrary reason, but after that, it's pretty nice. I leveled my warrior to 60 like this, and it was fun the whole way. A lot better than it was leveling alts in Legion or BFA. You can level up by doing side quests, world quests, bonus objectives, dungeons, all that other shit. Pretty much everything is available, but all of the story quests are gone. You can't redo those in Threads of Fate, although you can redo the entire thing of main story quests again if you want. In Threads of Fate, you do get some meta quests for doing things in each zone that grant a bunch of XP, and you get some things unlocked early like a bunch of flight pass. More importantly, you can choose your covenant immediately instead of at 60. That can be huge depending on your class. Having the Night Fae ability the entire time leveling on warrior was excellent. I have seen some people complain they were having trouble with Threads of Fate, but I didn't. As long as you're doing side quests and not trying to level by just doing world quests and bonus objectives, you should be just fine and not having any XP issues. I was pleasantly surprised by how good this mode was. There was one bit of fuckery that came out of nowhere, and that was the scaling. I remember in BFA, after like 5 levels, you'd lose your Legion legendaries and shit, just instantly losing a ton of power. It wasn't quite that bad, but around 55, 56, I noticed I started taking an assload more damage, doing a lot less damage, and I was really getting trucked. Not a big deal, but that could have been smoothed out better instead of a big spike. Alright, let's move on to the mall because I don't know what the fuck the mall is supposed to be. You can collect Stygia there. Okay then. Seems like the same problem as Islands and BFA. They had some currency in mind that they wanted you to have to earn, then thought of a game system to reward it. It is better than Islands, but still not great. It's an outdoor zone that you can't mount in, that's filled with rares and some dailies, with a wanted system that is sure to annoy the fuck out of you. I know what they were going for with the wanted system. As it gets higher, it's harder to do anything, so you get it up and eventually leave when it gets too hard. That sounded bad. That's dumb. It's more annoying than anything. One effect when it gets up to like 4/5 of the way is just a mob picking you up and dropping you after like 30 seconds. The fuck? Maybe some of the rares farther out are fun, or some of the dailies I haven't got yet are fun, but for now, the mall, it's really disappointing. Alright, so, Torghast. Your experience in Torghast will vary wildly depending on your spec and your luck. Some classes have better anima powers than others. Some classes are just better suited for Torghast. Sometimes you'll just get lucky and have a ton of great anima powers. Other times, you'll only get shit ones. It's pretty fucking volatile. It really does have the potential to be great, but for now, it's just alright. I've only done it as a hunter, but that means I get to play as ranged or melee DPS. Without a doubt, it's a ton easier as BM or marksman than it is survival. There are some mobs that punish the shit out of melee, like these exploding skeletons. These exploding skeletons are not fun. I'd rather fight bone wheel skeletons. I'm not sure who at Blizz thought this was fun. They did scale them back a little compared to the alpha at least, but they still suck. As survival, I can throw bombs at them, but for some classes, they would be a huge pain in the dick. And I never came across anything that was especially punishing for ranged. Honestly, as a hunter, it just kinda sucked to run as survival. Currently, we can only go to layer 3. There are a lot more layers that will roll out. Doing a layer 3 boss with my current gear as survival was fucked. I eventually killed it with only one death left, and it was honestly kind of fun, but I couldn't help but think I could have cleared that a lot easier as marks. And if I was BM, it would have been a joke. I could go on about Torghast for a long time. I did a lot of testing for it on the alpha, including some very special testing. And a lot of the problems back then weren't fixed. Even weird stuff like certain places showing as indoors when hallways show as outdoors, which is actually really important as a hunter. Honestly, I'm hopeful they can fix the problems Torghast does have, because there's a lot of potential here. And who knows, maybe gear will scale really well and Torghast won't feel like a slog as the expansion goes on, because some of the levels, they just take way too long. The mobs have way too much fucking health. I don't know. Torghast could really go either way. It's also tied to legendaries, but that will take at least another week to start getting. So we'll just have to see how Torghast goes on. Lastly, let's talk about the Covenant and why elites are better than brutes. Let's talk about covenants. So I chose Necrolords on my hunter and Night Fae on my warrior. Haven't got to try Revendreth or Bastion ones, but I did take Revendreth on my rogue. The difference is pretty huge. I don't even remember the starting quest for Necrolords. I think I did something for Drekka, and it was boring. Night Fae had me put on a play, which sounds like bitch boy, not Bigbobbedboi, I admit, but it was actually pretty funny and story-wise really revealing. Then they gave me the Covenant mount. I'm way deeper into Necro, and they haven't given me a mount yet. I'm really interested to see where the Night Fae quests go from here. The Necro Lord ones I don't really care about, which is a shame because before Slan started I was way more interested in Necros than Night Fae. Now, all Covenants give you your two abilities, one specific for a class and one that all classes in the Covenant get. Night Fae is good for a lot of classes, but which one you choose will depend on your class's spec. Okay, so Soul Binds. These are essentially like the effects legendary weapons had in Legion, without the gold dragon ones. This will take some time to unlock. We don't really have much of it now, so it's a little hard to speak on it. But it might be alright. Some of the effects Hunter can learn look pretty fun. And Covs also have something called Renown, which is just like your Covenant level basically. It's another thing that will take weeks to unlock. Well, not unlock, but level it up. It's a little similar to your Order Hall's level in Legion. Last thing for Covenant's command table, just why? Why is this a thing? It's just a Facebook game. I mean, this is something they tried stuffing in real games like 10 years ago, and it died out. I remember AC Black Flag had this same game, but with boats. It was boring back then, and it's still boring now. Not sure why Blizz still insists on this. Maybe there are some people out there that enjoy a little Facebook game in their WoW. I don't know. Alright, overall thoughts for Shadowlands after 1 week. I feel like I sounded a little negative here, but I'm having a pretty good time and I am optimistic. Do I enjoy it as much as I did Vanilla, BC, Wrath, and Classic? Fuck no. But do I enjoy it more than WoD, Legion, and BFA? So far, yeah, absolutely. It will be a few weeks at least, more likely a few months, before we see how all of these systems play out, but I am hopeful. There are some fun looking soul binds and legendary effects. The only thing that really concerns me and I don't see getting fixed is some classes and specs just are not doing great. For instance, I gave a ton of feedback on survival during alpha, and none of that was implemented. I mean, kind of what I expected, but I would have liked to have at least seen survival, I don't know, looked at. I mean, it's basically BFA survival, which was okay, but has a lot of like really easily solved problems, or, you know, small tweaks that would make it much better. And Blizz just doesn't seem interested in, and I don't know, that is a little depressing. On a not depressing note, if you enjoyed the video, hit that sub button, bell, like button, prostrate button, share button, all that other shit. It really does help the channel grow, and I really do appreciate each and every one I get. You can also follow me on Instagram for updates. Fuck. I forgot to post updates on Instagram for like 2 weeks. You should still follow me there, though, if you're on this stuff. I'm also streaming on YouTube now, so I hope you're excited for that. But that is going to be all for this one. I really appreciate you all watching, and I will see you all for the next one.